Welcome back again to Joe Stunner Boxing. Thank you for joining me. A lot has been said about the whole Conor Benn PED failed drug test, the way it's been handled, the way it's been spun or badly handled, more specifically by Ben's team and by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and DAZN. And I think this is a subject that certainly bears debating, but at the same time, I think people are missing out on one point. I haven't heard many people talk about this one point, which I think is very, very important. And that is that DAZN, being a streaming service, being an predominantly internet, or shall we say, technology-based outlet to be watched on phones, tablets, maybe desktop computers, it doesn't have the same power, the same promotional power that something like Sky does with Sky Sports, Sky Boxing, Sky News, Now, had Benn and Hearn still been with Sky, and had they been able to use that huge sort of behemoth platform of Sky News, Sky Sports, to propel their version of the narrative, I think it's worth asking, would Benn, or would his reputation be as badly marred as it currently is? I don't think it would be, because I think we live in a modern world where, this isn't really that different from when I was a kid, long before the internet. But certainly with the advent of the internet, we live in a world of buzz phrases, of buzzwords, of, Twitter, 149 characters or whatever the hell it was. I'm not on Twitter, I don't really know anything about it, but I was on there and I got banned and never went back. But the art of debate, the art of serious adult intellectual discussion is under the cosh in favour of infantile, childish, name-calling, trolling, and again, just buzz phrases. Now, bearing that in mind, in order to defeat that, you probably do need a big news outlet. And had Benn still been part of Sky Sports, Sky Boxing, had Matchroom still been aligned to Sky Sports and Sky Boxing, I think they could have spun the pro-Benn narrative much, much better. And Eddie Hearn wouldn't have come across as being a sort of mealy-mouthed, obscurantist, rather dishonest individual. Benn probably wouldn't have made as big a fool of himself as he has on Twitter, coming across as being extremely self-entitled. What they could have done was they could have got on Sky News, Sky Boxing programs, done it more professionally, deferred to people who understand this sort of stuff and how to spin the news, and probably Benn would be looking a lot better than he is. Now, I think this is actually reflected in the content of the boxing. It's a slightly different subject, of course, but I think that when Hearn decided to leave Sky, we all thought, well, that's a calculated gamble, but it might pay off. Looking back, I think it seems that Eddie Hearn felt that most of the success of the boxing on Sky in the decade before he left, most of it was down to him and his talents. And yes, there is no doubt that Eddie Hearn is an extremely talented, very, very hard-working promoter. But he achieved what he achieved with that enormous, panzer division of a platform, a news outlet, constantly promoting the product. And I think he overlooked the fact that you need that foundation, you need that weaponry to get across just how good your product is. And that's down to Sky and all the professionals behind the scenes. With DAZN, even though DAZN still put on some very good shows, and even though Hearn has now gone international and he has, cards from all sorts of countries, Mexico, Australia, he used to have done Italy and Spain, hasn't he? All this sort of stuff. Nevertheless, he can't promote it in the way that it perhaps deserves to be promoted. The same is true of boxers and the public perception around them. Lawrence Okolie has gone over to Sky. While he was with DAZN, Okolie was, he was one of those Marmite characters. Now he's at Sky. He can be promoted with the help of all the professionals around him, all those, media trained bods. he can get them on his side and he can be promoted as, you know, a family-friendly star. Look at what happened to AJ. Anthony Joshua, you know, what, you think it was all down to AJ and Eddie Hearn? No, it was down to Sky. It was down to the platform that was used to promote him and create that, and I hate this word, brand, okay? The same can happen with a Cody. What about Boazzi? I think he's gone over, hasn't he? From, I don't know whether he's gone to Sky or whether he's gone to Queensbury, but he's left DAZN. I'm sure a part of that is that he feels he's not getting the platform he needs to promote himself. So whether it's building a fighter, you know, building his profile, and hence, of course, building the interest in him, and of course the potential money earning, money earning potential, whether it's that or whether it's covering up, dare I use that phrase, some naughtiness that's gone on with a failed test, something like that, you know, doesn't matter. You need the right outlet. We all know that news outlets spin narratives. They spin a particular point of view, whether it's the BBC in Britain, whether it's, you know, ITV, it's Sky. I mean, look at Sky in Australia. It's a propaganda channel for right-wing views. In Ireland, what have you got? Is it RTE? I'm not familiar. In America, you've got, you know, Fox News, another Murdoch outlet, right wing. You've got CNN, you know, is it MSNBC, NBC, and yeah, you've got all these outlets, and they have an immense amount of power to push forward an agenda, rightly or wrongly. Very often, they might push forward an agenda which most people would think, okay, you know, that sounds like a worthy cause. I support that. Likewise, they might push forward something that's more insidious, that's more creepy. But, as Noam Chomsky wrote in that famous book of his, it's about manufacturing consent. It's about structuring a narrative to push forward a certain type of agenda so the majority of people go, okay, I accept that. You sort of create the zeitgeist. It's done, people do it with, news channels do it with world events, you know, the war in Ukraine is perhaps an example. They do it with certain politicians. They support certain politicians and certain parties. And people do lap it up. People like to be spoon-fed because being spoon-fed is easier than thinking for yourself. Being spoon-fed is easier than saying, well, I think that, but I also think that. So I'm going to have to really think about this to decide what do I think. You know, free thinking, objective thinking does not come easy. And the art of debate, again, is under the cosh. I'm talking about serious debate, adult debate, right? Because people, it's so much easier to just latch onto a buzzword, a buzz phrase, you know, cliches, stereotypes. It's easy to do that. And you see it all the time now. The advent of the internet has given the world's morons, the world's naive people, the world's insidious, creepy people, and certainly sociopaths and psychopaths a very loud voice. They're using it. So when it comes to controlling the narrative in the modern world, you need a very big platform. DAZN don't have it. And I just wonder if Ben had still been at Sky, whether we'd be thinking of him in the same way, or the majority of people would be thinking of him in the same way. Maybe if they'd spun it, a lot more people would be saying, do you know what, I think he's innocent. Yeah, okay, I'll take that, because of the way it would be promoted. I think people have overlooked that fact. But yeah, tell me what you think. Leave your comments below. I've made several videos before about this issue about Ben, but I do think that's overlooked. The fact that he is tucked away with DAZN does not have that news outlet. It does not have that promotional clout that's needed to push forward a narrative to manufacture consent. Other much bigger news outlets, much bigger sporting outlets do have that. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Thanks for your time as always. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and we'll speak again soon. Bye for now.